All right, good evening. I call this regularly scheduled board meeting, the City of Siloam Spring Board of Directors for January 7, 2020 to order. Roll call.
Sappington,
Here.
Smiley,
Here.
Burns,
Here.
Hunt,
Here.
Rissler,
Here.
Carroll,
Here.
Coleman.
Would you please stand as Director Smiley leads us in our opening prayer and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Heavenly Father, as we begin 2020 and look around our community, we are so thankful for all the blessings that you have given us and thankful for the opportunity that you give to serve our community. We ask that you guide and direct us in the decisions that we make tonight, and we ask that you watch over our community, our nation, and all those that protect and serve us no matter where they are. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, good evening and welcome. And before we get into our business stuff here this evening, I'd like to remind everyone to please turn off or mute your electronic devices so that we don't interrupt anyone who might be speaking either on the board or to the board. So we can move on with that. The board, you've each received a copy of the minutes of a regular meeting of December 17, 2019. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Second.
I got you, Marla. I'm writing here. Sorry. I have a motion and a second. Is there anyone who feels there need to be changes made other than the one that we did have a Scrivener's note, Scrivener's error, I think, and it's had something to do with Director Smiley, and it read, how'd that read?
Well, I am a she, not a he.
Okay, that's what it was. Director
Said he.
Smiles said he. Smiles said he. That's what it was. And instead it should have been Director Smiley said. Okay? And those changes have already been made in the minutes once we've approved them. Anyone else? If not, then we will vote to approve the minutes as received. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. Next period on our agenda is the public input time when citizens may address this board on any city business that is not on tonight's agenda. If you'd like to address the board, we ask you please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and we ask that you hold your minute, your whatever you want to say. Be just aware you'll be on a time, and I'm not necessarily going to ring a bell if you go over that 3 minutes, so don't worry about that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and fellow directors. I'm Arthur Holbert. I live at 20705 Highway 16 in Siloam Springs. I'm the new president and CEO of the Siloam Springs Chamber of Commerce, and I just want to thank each of you for the hard work that you guys do as directors in making it a wonderful place for my wife and my 3 daughters to live, and I have a business on Mount Olive Street. And just thank you for the long nights and hard work that you do. And I would love to meet each of you and hear what's important and how I can serve you all and serve with you to continue to make Siloam Springs a better place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arthur, and welcome to Siloam Springs officially. From the board, anyway. Anyone else? If no one else, then we will move on to our regularly scheduled items. The first item is budget amendment under contracts and approvals for the fire department. 2020 capital budget for a diesel exhaust removal system in the amount of not to exceed, we're not for $35,000. Chief Greiner.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. Jeremy Kreiner, Fire Chief. Certainly would not make a habit of being here at the first board meeting of the year asking for a budget amendment. However, this project was originally a part of the Fire Station 2 renovation back in 2019. In fact, during that renovation process, we did upgrade the electrical and the mechanical systems to allow for this project to be turnkey. We had contingency money set aside during that project in order to cover this cost. However, throughout the course of the renovation, we came across several items that ended up using that contingency. So, for example, we had asbestos abatement that needed to be done in the old Parks and Rec building before demolition. We had a sidewalk that needed to be relocated. We had portions of the building underground near the additions that had to be, we came across old foundations of old buildings under there. And so portions of that had to be ripped out and secured so the additions could be added in there. So throughout the course of that, along with a few other small things, that contingency fund was used up. And so this $35,000 budget adjustment, or budget amendment, if approved, would come from our sales tax reserve funds, which currently there's $115,000 in unallocated money in that account. So with that, staff is available for any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Any comments from the audience? Can you all hear out there? Because we can't hear it. It doesn't. Sounds like we're talking to ourselves up here. All right. Being none, no comments from the audience, I'll turn it over to the board for comments and/or questions of staff. Being none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the budget amendment as stated.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Carol.
I move that we approve a budget amendment for the Fire Department 2020 capital budget by adding $35,000 for the addition of a diesel exhaust removal system.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion? Being none, we will vote on the motion to approve. Roll call.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next is Siloam Springs Water Resource approval of a grubbing and clearing request for Patent Limited LLC. Philip?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Board. So, as many of you know, the city, through a Oklahoma corporation, the Siloam Springs Water Resource Company, owns a large amount of property in the state of Oklahoma around the old Lake Francis Dam. Patent Limited owns an additional large amount of property around part of the property that we own through the Water Resource Company. Patent Limited is associated with the Walton Family Foundation, who is working with GRDA to design and ultimately build a whitewater kayak park on property owned by both Patent Limited and the Siloam Springs Water Resource Company. As part of that project, the plans are in front of the Army Corps of Engineers, currently in Tulsa, and it is potentially possible that the Corps may issue their permit early this year. And we're trying to get ahead of that if the Corps does issue the permit, to allow the property that would be intended to be dedicated over and sold to GRDA to go ahead and allow that to be cleared and grubbed, the clearing taking the trees out, the grubbing taking all the roots and things out, ahead of March 31st. So if the Corps issues their permit for the kayak park before March 1st, and this were to be approved, then what we're asking is for the city board of directors to grant approval to the directors of the Siloam Springs Water Resource Company board, which is the mayor and Director Smiley, to grant approval to Patent Limited's contractor, which in this case would be Crossland Construction, to allow them to start clearing and grubbing before the whole final bid goes out for the construction of the kayak park. And the reason why it's important and the reason why we're trying to get ahead of the date is in that area between March 31st and the fall, somewhere around September, there can be no clearing and grubbing occurring because of the northern long-eared and Indiana bats. If they're present over there, the state of Oklahoma, the Department of Wildlife, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service do not allow any clearing and grubbing to occur during that time period because of the foraging and the roosting of the bats, of their baby bats. So if the Corps issues the permit before March 1st, the next steps are to go through the process of putting the construction drawings out there, finishing the construction drawings, putting them out there for bid, having the Walton Family Foundation approve the bid price, and then going through the process of exchanging the deeds between Patton Limited and the Water Resource Company over to GRDA. And all of that will take a significant amount of time. But if the Corps issues the permit before March 1st, it would be nice to be able to start the clearing and grubbing early so that we can get that done and not have to wait until around September of 2020 before the project can start. So staff has reviewed the request. You can see there that we are supportive of the request subject to about 4 conditions. One, that we get to review and approve the stormwater and erosion control plan, the stabilization plan that we provide, or that Crossland and/or Patton Limited provide an indemnification to the Siloam Springs Water Resource Company for any violation of any local, state, or federal regulation as it relates to the clearing and grubbing. And then also, should things not go through and the kayak park not be built, that Patton Limited provide us with a written commitment to replant the area should it be grubbed but the kayak park not be built. And with that, I'll be available for any questions, and there are representatives from both GRDA and Patton Limited here who may have to answer a question that I can't answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. All right. Any comments from the audience? Mike, either you or Cousin Ed want to make any comments? If not, then we'll just... Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Well, since there are no comments, I'll turn it over to the board for comments and/or questions of staff.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Marla?
how much of the land is the resource board and how much is Patton? It's kind of hard to tell what is on that and what is going to be utilized in the project.
So the red line is the property line between the Siloam Springs Water Resource Company, and most of that land to the left and north, or up on the upper end of that red line, is Patton Limited. The area in the sort of the bottom right of that drawing is the land that's owned by the Siloam Springs Water Resource Company, and the area that's to be grubbed that the resource company owned is within the yellow line.
Okay, and then Siloam Resources owns north of the red line, some too.
Well, just let's say the upper left, the left side of that red line is owned by Patton Limited, and the right side of the red line is owned by the Water Resource Company, if that helps. We own, through the resource company, we own, Don, is it 600 acres roughly over there in the state of Oklahoma? A lot of it is the old lake bed. Most of it's to the south, but you can see on the right-hand side of the page where the red line goes north, up, that starts the water line area that we saw in the earlier presentation where Burns and McDonald were showing the hills and valleys through the water line. That's where the water line is going in that area. The intended area, it's the intended property that's to be ultimately turned over to GRDA for the kayak park, is that area in yellow and a little bit more just to the north of, and I don't have a pointer, but a little bit of the area to the right and to the upper right side of that yellow line.
And how many total acres?
The total acres that we would ultimately be turning over to GRDA is about 17 acres. That area right there to be cleared is probably in the realm of 12 to 15 max.
So down here in the yellow where the park is
Yes.
17.
The whole area that the land that the Water Resource Company owns that's intended to be turned over to GRDA for the ownership of them to operate the park is about 17 acres total.
Okay.
What's going to be cleared is less than that 17 acres.
Right. Okay.
Any other questions?
And I would point out that you can see the dam there, the little sort of finger at the bottom of the yellow. That area that's sort of in white, that is that rock bed, and most of that is just bushes. There's very few trees. There's a few trees on that, but that's basically all rock bed there. The majority of the clearing is going to be north of that area and outside the bank of what will end up being the kayak course.
So are we going to build bat houses?
Ed, are we going to build bat houses? Over time, probably so. The plans for the kayak park include a significant amount of new landscaping, so there will be a significant amount of new trees planted as part of that. But again, in order to do construction, we have to clear and grub it. It has to be, not we, but it has to be cleared and grubbed, and it's just trying to get ahead of that amount of that window where no clearing and grubbing can occur, which is a 50-50 chance if the Corps issues their approval of the plan before March 1st.
Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
Mayor,
Yes, Brad.
make a motion to grant approval to Siloam Springs Water Resource Company Boards of Directors to enter into an agreement with the Patent Limited LLC to allow the clearing and grubbing of approximately 7.25 acres owned by the Water Resource Company immediately adjacent to Lake Francis Dam site, subject to the recommended conditions of approval.
Thank you, Brad. Do I have a second?
I will second on that's 17.25. I didn't know if I heard him say 17 or 7.25 acres.
I think he said
Mayor,
17.
I don't want to start this meeting debating with this fine gentleman. No, I'm just joking. 17.25, sir.
17. Okay, I didn't hear properly.
Okay.
Second.
Mumbler.
All right. And I was just getting ready to brag on him. In case you didn't know, that was written down for Director Burns to give that motion. Some people said, man, he can really put that motion into good terms there, what have you. But he's reading that. He did a good job, too. And I did hear the 17.25.
I went to school at Cookson Hills on Highway 10 in Oklahoma.
That's right.
That's good.
Oh, we're diverting. We're here. Okay. Okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. I started. Okay. We have a motion and second. Is there further discussion on the motion to approve? Being none, we will vote on the motion to approve as stated. Roll call.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next is dedication of pedestrian access easement at 1645 West Highway 412. Justin?
Thank you. Justin Bland, City Engineer. And what we have here is a access easement that is across the Arvis property on Holly Street. Here we go. So this is in conjunction with the side path project that was approved at the December meeting and has already begun construction. Arvis has agreed to grant this easement to the city for the side path, and staff is recommending approval of that. And staff is available for any questions.
Thank you, Justin. Any comments from the audience? Being none, I'll turn it over to the board for comments and or questions of staff.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Carol.
I just want to mention that I really appreciate Arvest working with us. I go by that every day, and it's looking so good, and I'm so glad to see that because I do see kids trying to cross from the middle school on, crossing 412, and I think that helps them walk. So I'm glad to see that there's this shared responsibility between Arvest and the city.
Well, they even stepped in and with the legal and went ahead and took care of a lot of the legal
I saw that,
part of
so
it too.
that saves
and
us
just
some.
jumped into the middle of it, but we appreciate that partnership. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, I echo what Director Smiley says, and also just as she alluded to, I want to remind people that part of the reason for that sidewalk or that side path was for the increase in traffic from the younger kids needing to find a safer way to get across 412. Right. I've heard some questions about, why we put that there, and I think that's a pretty legitimate reason. We want to keep those kids safe. So.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mayor.
Are we going to have to adjust the timing of the traffic light to allow for the walkers during the school times?
Justin Bland, city engineer. At this point, there shouldn't have to be any adjustments. It's already lined up for walkers there. You push the button, and it's time to cross as needed throughout there. So there shouldn't be any adjustment for this project.
Will it be a problem if we need to because they're smaller, legs are shorter, don't walk as fast?
We could definitely take that in consideration. RDOT, I know Glenn with our electric department works with RDOT on these types of things, and there are definitely guides on that, and they do consider maybe slower moving people for the calculations on that. So, but yeah, if there's an issue, there is some variability. I think we could adjust that if needed.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Carol.
I move that we approve the dedication of a pedestrian access easement along the west side of 1645 West Highway 412.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion? Being none, we will vote on the motion to approve. Roll call.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Motion is approved. We'll move now into ordinances. And first ordinance tonight is ordinance 19-27, third reading, amending Chapter 102, Zoning Code, drive-through uses. Ben?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board, Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. Before you is the final reading for the update to the zoning code for the drive-through uses. Once again, this change requires a special use permit be applied for anyone who's wanting to open a drive-through that touches a residential zone. Staff has not received any additional comments on this since the previous reading. We, along with the Planning Commission, are recommending approval, and we stand by for any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben. Any comments from the audience?
Hello, folks. Jacob Fries, 717 South Wright Street. I am actually just wanting to request that we implement the emergency clause on this code so that it becomes effective immediately. That's all my comments. Thank you.
All right, I'll turn it over to the board for comments, and we can one of the board members can adjust that or address that if you so desire.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, I was just getting ready. Jake, you want to come up and give us an explanation as to why you feel that would be necessary?
Well, and what is our waiting time also?
Yeah,
Okay.
Philip will address that.
So my understanding is that the waiting period is typically 30 days, and I'm just wanting to expedite that so that we can move forward with a special use permit application.
Okay.
So the
expound on that a little bit.
The standard process is that ordinances become effective 30 days after publication. So maybe a little bit longer than 30 days. But if this ordinance is approved and adopted tonight, I wouldn't see that it would prevent an application being submitted for that process, because it'll have to, correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, it's usually submitted 30 days before the next Planning Commission meeting or something along that effect. And by the time it would get to the Planning Commission, it would be close to being effective, if not effective, the ordinance. So I don't know that from a standpoint of saying we would not accept an application for a special use review just until the 30-day time limit is up, I think it's moving forward. There wouldn't be any reason to to reject that application, if that makes sense. So from staff's perspective, I don't know that there is an overall arching public need to make the ordinance immediately effective upon adoption if the ordinance is adopted tonight. It is my opinion that emergency clauses should be held to an overarching public need to make something immediately effective. In this case, like I said, if it's adopted on third reading, it's going to be effective in 30 some odd days. I don't think that we would stand in the way and say we're not going to accept an application until the ordinance becomes effective. It'll take a period of time to go through the process in front of the Planning Commission, in front of the board, and by that time the ordinance will have officially be law. So I don't know if you've been told something differently, and if so, I apologize for that, but I wouldn't necessarily believe that an emergency clause is necessary at this point.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. One last question on that note. What makes it extend sometimes longer than 30 days?
It's 30 days after publication, so our newspaper is published once a week, so we got to get it in the newspaper. It won't be tomorrow, likely be a week from tomorrow would be when it was published, so therefore it'd be 30 days probably from next Wednesday.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, anything else, board?
Mayor?
Yes, Carol?
I move that we place ordinance number 19-27 on its third reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion to suspend? Being none, then we will vote on the motion to suspend. Roll call?
Rissler,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Philip?
Ordinance number 19-27, an ordinance amending Chapter 102 zoning code of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code with respect to drive-through use.
Thank you, Philip. I'll now entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 19-27.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion to adopt? Being none, we will vote on the motion to adopt. Roll call?
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Ordinance 19-27 is approved. Next is ordinance number 19-28, third reading, amending section 102-21 of the zoning code, rezoning R2 to R3, R4, C1, and C2 for the 2500 block of South Waukesha Road. Ben?
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Mayor and Board. This is the third reading for the rezoning of South Waukesha Road to R3 and 4 and C18 and C2. We have not received any additional comments on this, and we continue to recommend approval, and we stand by for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Any comments from the audience? Being none, we will turn it over to the board for comments and or questions of staff. Being none, I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number not to approve on ordinance number 19-28.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Reed.
recommend that we place ordinance 19-28 on its third reading, suspending the rules, reading by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion? Being none, we will vote on the motion to suspend. Roll call?
Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Philip?
Ordinance number 19-28, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, city zoning map, rezoning from R2 to R3, R4, C1A, and C2, the property located in the 2500 block of South Waukesha Road.
Thank you, Philip. I'll now entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 19-28.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion to adopt? Being none, we will vote on the motion to adopt on ordinance 19-28. Roll call.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington.
Yes.
Ordinance 19-28 is approved. Next is ordinance 20-01. First reading, annexation of 4.99 acres on 3480 Highway 4112 East. Ben?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. You're looking at a proposed annexation located at South Highway 412 East. This is described as the vacant parcel that's directly south of the Tractor Supply store. The applicant is requesting to annex and zone to R3, residential 2 family. The future land use map describes this area as mixed use. The R3 zone is compatible with the mixed use designation. This will also be in Ward 3. Here you see the site plan provided with the petitioner's application. The area being annexed is located within the bolded black lines on the map there. I can circle it here if you can't see. The proposal is within an enclave or an area where the city surrounds within on all 4 sides. This annexation will split the enclave into 2 smaller areas. This is permissible by the county. Services exist to the north of the site, and these will be extended upon development of the property. Staff has not received any development plans at this time, and we reviewed the proposal, and it appears to meet all state requirements. We are recommending approval and stand by for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Any comments from the audience? Don't see anybody here that's involved with it. All right, board, I'll turn it over to you for comments or questions of staff. Being none, I'll entertain a motion to suspend and on ordinance 20-19 or 20-1.
I can't hear, so I'm not.
Can't hear?
Mayor?
Can you not hear me either? I say I can't hear myself either. So I'll entertain a motion
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move that we place ordinance number 20-01 on its first reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion to suspend? Being none, we'll vote on the motion to suspend. Roll call.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Philip?
Ordinance number 20-01, an ordinance accepting the annexation of certain territory to the city of Siloam Springs, Arkansas, and assigning the same to a ward.
Thank you, Philip. Next, we'll go to ordinance 20-02. Phil Stokes is going to come up and present this, and Phil is also going to present resolution 01-20 as well in his presentation. And since they're tied together, and of course this will still require two separate motions once we get to the approval point. So, Phil.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Phil Stokes, Elected Director. This ordinance requires all new utility and communication lines to be placed underground. Before we would remove our utility lines and place them underground, we would contact the other entities that have these communication lines, and they've been notified of our intent to work, and they can use our open ditch, or we can help them pull the bore in with their lines. They'll be allowed 90 days to complete their work after we complete our work, and there'll be penalties assessed if they didn't complete it within that 90 day period. We know that locating utility lines underground is more expensive than overhead, but the advantages are that you have less power outages due to storms, wildlife, and trees, and it also would dramatically decrease the amount of tree trimming we have to do. The resolution deals with the undergrounding master plan that we have come up with. We've identified 4 areas that need to be utilities need to be located underground. It's over a 3-year period. We would purchase the boring equipment, and we would use our existing personnel that we have to complete this undergrounding master plan. So we'd ask that you approve the ordinance and the resolution, and staff is available for any questions.
There anyway, can we get that area that would be required that we're talking about down the road? Can we make sure that's do we have that picture for the audience to see? I know, but I'm just we don't have an overhead for it. That's what. Okay, no problem. Okay, board has it. I'm looking at it here. So yeah, okay. Any comments from the audience? I think I've already asked that. I am now, aren't I? If there are none, then I'll turn it over to the board for comments and/or questions of staff.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Carol.
This included 4 different areas, didn't it? Wasn't it 4 different areas? I haven't got to the map. And that's in the resolution?
Yes.
And this would begin when?
Next year.
Okay. That would be in the 2021
Yes,
budget?
ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
So it's reviewed every 3 years if we adopt this. It's going to save you about $500,000 when we complete the project, and it costs 10 times as much to put underground. Makes perfect sense. No, actually, I appreciate the work, and I know it's hard for some folks to grasp. But if we look, 20 years down the road and the life cycle that well beyond my years, that just changes the whole dynamics of neighborhoods. It's just it's amazing. And after this last year's weather event and coming in, I'm sure that would greatly have reduced of a lot of your long hours.
Yes, sir.
So thank you for the work.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Carol.
I am glad to see this. I think it's cost effective in the long run. I know out in my neighborhood, it would have saved a lot of problems when that last tornado and other neighborhoods when it went through. And I know it's expensive, but I think in the long run it will be, as I said, very cost effective. Thank you.
Yes. Mindy?
So the cost of doing this for the next 3 years, those will be in the budgets associated with those years of the repairs.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we'll approve the work in 2021 when we approve that budget.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Carol.
I move that we place ordinance number 20-02 on its first reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion to approve? Being none, we will vote on the motion to approve on motion to suspend on ordinance 20-02. Roll call?
Hunt,
Yes.
You can't hear you.
Yes.
There you
Yes.
go. Yeah, get that mic closer.
Rissler,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
She specifically said,
Example?
Instead of board meeting. What's going on?
motion is approved. Okay.
Ordinance number 20-02, An ordinance creating Section 98-77 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code to govern the installation and relocation of utility and communication lines below the ground and for other purposes.
Okay, can you hear me? All right. Next is Resolution 01-20, Siloam Springs Electric Utility Underground Master Plan. All right, are there any comments from the audience? We've already had our presentation on it, so if not, I'll turn it over to the board for comments and or questions of staff.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Carol.
I move we approve Resolution 01-20 adopting the Siloam Springs Electric Utility Underground Master Plan.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion to approve? Being none, we'll vote on the motion to approve on Resolution 01-20. Roll call?
Chrysler,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Nice.
Got it.
Motion is approved. Next is Resolution 02-20, Procedures and Organizational Matters of the Board of Directors. Philip?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Board. So in 2015, the state adopted Act 235, which required all governing bodies of cities to have an organizational meeting in January of each year. And the point of this act was for the board to determine its rules of proceedings. And the rules include such things as the meeting, the agenda, the public comments, duties and privileges of the directors, duties of the mayor and vice mayor, and general parliamentary rules and procedures. The board originally adopted their original rules and procedures were adopted in 2016. In 2017, there were minor amendments made as it relates to personnel. In 2018, there were some minor amendments made as it relates to attendance and the term and duties of the vice mayor. And in 2018 and 2019, there were no amendments made. So what you have before you is a resolution adopting the same procedure and organizational rules as were adopted last year at this time. And staff will be available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. Any comments from the audience? Being none, I'll turn it over to the board for comments and or questions of staff.
Mayor?
Yes.
You know, as I read through this and some of the conversation we had last year, I just want to read one little segment to remind folks as we move forward into this year. The city administrator is empowered to hire capable personnel within the approved wage and salary policy to plan, establish schedules, and to train, supervise, and terminate employees. So for those watching that had numerous questions last year, we have renewed the contract with the city administrator. That is what he does. We do not participate in that. And I think that was a reoccurring thing last year. So it just, as we read through this, it just reminded you a few things. And you can have a little bit of fun at a board meeting on occasion.
Thank you, Brad.
Put that in there.
No, that's that.
Anyone else? If not, then we will vote to approve. Let's see. Wait a minute. I need a motion. I haven't gotten that yet. Motion to approve.
Mr. Mayor, I
Yes.
move that we approve Resolution 02-20, adopting rules related to procedures and organizational matters of the Board of Directors as required by Arkansas Code annotated 14-43-501.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on the motion to approve? Being none, we will vote on the motion to approve on Resolution 02-20. Roll call?
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Chrysler,
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next is Resolution 03-20, administrating the records of municipal meetings. Philip?
Renee.
Oh, you going to do it, Renee? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry.
As you all know, the Arkansas General Assembly last April passed Act 1028, amending the Freedom of Information Act, requiring that all municipal meetings of the governing bodies be recorded. Siloam has been recording meetings, and there shouldn't be a whole lot of fiscal impact to the city. Resolution 3-20 is only memorializing the requirements of the recordings and its retention of the same. Staff recommends approval and is available for any questions.
Any comments from the audience? Being none, I'll turn it over to the board for comments or questions of staff.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Carol?
I move that we approve Resolution 03-20.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion to approve? Being none, we'll vote on the motion to approve on Resolution 03-20. Roll call?
Sappington,
Yes.
Wiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next is Resolution 04-20, setting hearing date for right-of-way vacation at the 300 block of Highway 59 North. And that's going to be Mr. Ben. I didn't have your name written down here, Ben. I didn't know right-of-ways got to take vacations.
Oh, sometimes they do.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. So yes, you're looking at a resolution to set a board hearing date to review right-of-way and utility easement closure. This is occurring in the airport subdivision, which is located at the 300 block of Highway 59 North. Dogwood Park LLC, the petitioner seeks to close unused north, south, and east-west unnamed streets that have never been constructed on or used by the general public, as well as several unneeded utility easements that are run along the old lot lines. Staff is suggesting February 4th, 2020 for the hearing date, and we are available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Any comments from the audience? Being none, I'll turn it over to the board for comments and or questions of staff. Being none, I'll entertain a motion to approve on Resolution 04-20.
Mayor,
Brad?
make a motion to approval of Resolution 04-20. Setting
Second.
hearing date for right-of-way vacation, 300 block Highway 59 North. Sorry, Carol.
Second, Carol? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion to approve? Or any discussion on the motion to approve? Being none, we will vote on the motion to approve on Resolution 04-20. Roll call.
Wiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Staff reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and board, Mr. Board and Mayor.
Board Mayor, okay.
I'd like to start our staff reports with the introduction of Mr. Alan Gilbert. If you would, Alan, step to the podium. Alan is the new police chief as of yesterday. Alan has been the deputy police chief in Tupelo, Mississippi since 2013. He's got over 25 years experience in law enforcement. He's been a patrolman, a detective, special operations officer, school resource officer, a member of the SWAT team. He was a member of the Joint Terrorism Task Force and also the campus liaison officer for the FBI out of Jackson, Mississippi. He's been provided with a number of awards throughout his career. I won't go through all of them, but a couple that I'd like to point out was an award from the FBI Director Robert Mueller during the terrorism investigation and achievements and major crimes. In Mississippi, he was awarded 3 times the Crime Stopper Coordinator of the Year. He was awarded 4 times as the Mississippi Crime Stoppers Program of the Year, the program that he operated. And he was also the Mississippi Association of School Resource Officers Administrator of the Year. So we're very excited to have Alan here in Siloam Springs to be the new police chief. He attended the National FBI National Academy in 2007, and he wants to make a priority as far as community-based policing. And so I want to give you a chance to address the board, and then also to note that tomorrow night from 5 to 7 p.m. at the library, we'll be having an open house. So you and members of the public are welcome to come out and introduce yourselves to Alan and meet with him. We want you to get to know him, and we invite the public to come out. Alan and I will be there to answer any questions. But Alan, if you would, just tell the board a little bit more about you than what I said.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. First of all, I'm honored to be selected to be your police chief, and I'm looking forward to serving the community. My wife and my family, we have been just kind of overwhelmed at the outpour of support that we have received from the community and people I've never met. I think that's what sold me. So being selected, I'm very honored and humbled. I have my wife, Brenda, just retired school teacher of 28 years. We've been married for 25 years. We have 2 boys, Jacob and Hunter. Hunter's in college, and Jacob just enrolled his first day of school today as a sophomore. So it's been a little tough on him because he's right in the middle of the year. But again, I've been in law enforcement, and I think I retired with 27 and a half years, and just looking forward to working with you. Again, I hope you can come out tomorrow and we can start building our relationship, and I'm looking forward to serving you and our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Alan.
And next, Don is going to present our proposal as it relates to the pilot project for the bike path and where we want to go. And correct me if are we going to ask the board to approve a motion, or are we just basically informing the board this is what we want to do, and if there's no objection, we're going to go forward?
Absolutely, that's where we are. Okay. Absolutely, second one. Don Clark, Community Development Director. So just briefly, I'm gonna let Justin get up and talk through all the engineering pieces of it. So just a reminder while we're here is that, the agreement, the MOU with Bike NWA is that we would leave the pilot bike project in place for up to a year. During that time frame, we've collected data that will be presented to you guys, and our recommendation will be at the end of that presentation of what we're going to do. So I'm going to be here. Justin's going to get up, present. I can answer questions, at the end if we have any. So at that point in time, I'll go ahead and get Justin up so we can run through the presentation, and then at the end we can answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Justin Bland, City Engineer. So just kind of briefly wanted to kind of review the project extents as it was installed. So you can kind of see the layout of it here in the red hatched area. And on the west end, it tied in at Carl Street in the vicinity of where the trail system ends currently. It goes down Harvard Street, turns north on Elm Street, then back east on Jefferson in front of the library, and then north up Maxwell to the Main Street Bridge. And a couple of the big pieces that were installed as part of this is on Carl and Harvard Street. We put in some speed humps and a lane delineator as a way to kind of slow traffic where people would be exiting the trail and crossing Carl Street. This is a mid-block crossing area, so cars tend to kind of go through there at a higher speed. So this was one piece of on the western end. And then kind of sporadically throughout the project, there were several of these pinch points, with the idea being to make traffic one way for a short section and consequently kind of slow down the cars as they go through there. And then you can kind of see over here, there's several of these, they call them super sharrows. They're the bigger, supersized ones, but the idea is just to notify motorists that, they're to share the roadway with bicyclists. Of course, the intersection of Mount Olive and Jefferson, we added bike lanes through the intersection that were painted, and they had there's actually a flex curb delineator to kind of give cyclists a little bit of protection. And then along Maxwell Street from Jefferson down the hill towards Main Street, we adjusted the on-street parking, making it diagonal, and doing that, we kind of narrowed up the street corridor to kind of help slow down speeds a little bit, but there were a pinch point added at the Main Street Bridge, as well as at the intersection of Twin Springs and Maxwell. So that was all installed late 2018, and as part of this, we, right from the get-go, part of the deal is that we were going to take traffic counts periodically in a couple different locations. So we took some in September of 2018, and then we did quarterly counts in 2019 just to kind of see what the impact of these improvements would be. And each traffic study was about 2 weeks long. So this first chart here, you can kind of see this is the average daily traffic count at each one of these locations. And I forgot to mention earlier, but at the bottom you can see there are basically 4 locations. One's on Harbor between Oak Hill and Elm. One's on Jefferson between Wright and Mount Olive. Another one on Jefferson that's more or less in front of the library, just east of the library. And then the last one was on Maxwell Street, towards the bottom of the hill there by the Memorial Park. And just a couple of notable things about the average daily traffic. On Harbor, we did see kind of a pretty steady decline in traffic. It went from the upper 500s down into lower 500s, upper 400s, and that was kind of sustained. And we think that that was probably explained because a lot of people probably use that as a cut-through street, and when you had to slow down, it was not quite as convenient. So I think people were taking other routes, but that's probably what happened there. The other 3 locations didn't seem to have too much of a difference in traffic. It kind of was sporadic, though. On this sheet, you can see the 85th percentile speed that was detected at these 4 locations. And with the exception of Jefferson, they all kind of trend in the downward direction.
Justin, can I interrupt a little bit? Because I didn't load mine down, but the audience out here doesn't have it. And you cannot tell.
Oh, sure.
Like colors, what do the colors mean? Or in other words, we can't read any of that. It's too small.
Okay, sure.
It is for my poor eyes. I don't know.
Yeah, let me back up here, and I'll kind of show you.
Yeah,
so on this, so each one of these kind of groups of columns is each one of the locations, and the blue number is the pre-installation count. So that was the one in September 2018. And then as you go each color over, it's quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3. So it's basically kind of a snapshot every 3 months for 5 quarters in a row.
Okay.
So you can kind of see here on this one that, over those 5 quarters, it's kind of trending down. And then over here, this is for the Jefferson between Wright and Mount Olive. That's that grouping. And then this is the Jefferson one in front of the library. And then this is the Maxwell Street one that's over there by Memorial Park.
Okay, thank you.
So back to the 85th percentile speed. Again, we kind of see generally, it makes sense. You get these pinch points on the ground, cars are going to be moving slower. There was a kind of an anomaly here on Jefferson between Wright and Mount Olive, and the pre-installation count there. After we did that, we switched the stop signs at that intersection. So previously there was a stop sign that if you're going east-west, you had to stop. So that was why there's a lower traffic or a lower speed there. When we switched that, so now you can go, uninterrupted east-west. Of course, the speeds are going to go up somewhat.
Justin, for the audience, if you look at Harvard, you mentioned Harvard, that we did see downward progression. But if you look at that, just kind of walk for the public's benefit, walk through those columns on Harvard where pre-installation was about 30, 31 miles an hour, but over time we saw it drop to about 25, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we saw about a 31 mile per hour pre-installation, and it hovered around 25, so basically 6 miles per hour slower on average across that time period. And then this one's kind of the anomaly, but if you go to Jefferson in front of the library, it started out at about 27, and the average drop maybe 1.5 to 2 miles per hour over that span. And then similarly on Maxwell, we actually saw more of like a 2.5 to 3 mile per hour drop over that span. So it kind of varied depending on the traffic situation and the amount of traffic, but we definitely did see some slowing of traffic due to what was installed on the ground. And then the last kind of bundle of data here we have is the number of bikes that we were detected using our tube counters. And so these were the number, each column is basically the number of bikes that were detected over that 2-week period. So you can see on Harvard, if you go back, maybe the table is a little clearer, but we had 3 bikes detected over that first 2-week period pre-installation, and then every quarter after there we saw 8, 3, 5, and 5. So pretty similarly across the other ones, we didn't see a large increase or decrease. It can kind of see, or I guess I should say, a statistically significant increase or decrease. It kind of hovered, and I think we did have some questions about the number of bikes and like how accurate our tube counters are, and I think they are pretty accurate. They may have missed some counts here, but when you look at just the order of magnitudes, I think everything seems to be pretty linear. There's not like a big jump one way or the other, after the installation. So just based on that data, just some kind of general takeaways we had were that other than on Harvard Street, the traffic volumes didn't change substantially, and I don't think we thought that they would. I think that was kind of logical. As traffic speeds did decrease on average across the project. We didn't notice the number of bikes being observed changing substantially. And then, one thing that was talked about considerably was that the project really didn't provide any access for pedestrians. And so just some other staff takeaways about the route. And the first one being just the lack of pedestrian features here. And I think as a staff, we really wanted to look at a complete street that would provide for vehicular, pedestrian, and cyclists to have good access across there. And this wasn't intended necessarily to have pedestrians, but as we move into looking to make it permanent, we want to make sure that it covered all 3 phases of that. Another thing we noted was that it doesn't provide direct access from Southside Elementary. After being on the ground and seeing this, we noticed that as schools let out, a lot of the kids come up Wright Street here, and there's just a big gap in any direction where they would be able to get onto this corridor here to go elsewhere in town. A third thing to note is that as we look at trying to make this a permanent route, if we were going to add pedestrian features such as a sidewalk or a side path, going down Jefferson Street is going to be at a higher cost. And this is because there's a major drainage feature in this area, and the road also has some fairly significant ditches along the side of it. So that was just one thing to note with that route. And then the last thing was just that the traffic count on Jefferson Street, particularly east of Mount Olive, was fairly high. I mean, it's like 4,000 cars per day. So we just, if you're looking for these routes, if you have an alternative with lower traffic counts, I think it's just safer overall for pedestrians and cyclists. So staff has prepared an alternative route that would take place of this, and the first piece of this would be, instead of going up Elm Street and across Jefferson, we would just do the side path along Harvard all the way to Mount Olive. And this is actually currently in the 2020 budget. And, this would be a 10-foot side path on the north side of the road, most likely. But it would provide access for, vehicles, cars, and cyclists throughout this whole corridor. The second phase of this would be to bring it across Mount Olive and then up Maxwell to tie in to the part that was already along Maxwell. And again, this kind of reroutes it around this high volume section of Jefferson Street and puts it in more of a low volume, hopefully a lower speed traffic area. And, staff would suggest, moving ahead and budgeting this in future budgets as early as 2021. But in the meantime, before that second phase is built, this first phase does connect to Mount Olive Street, which has sidewalks up and down both sides. So it actually makes a connection right away from the get-go. And just some advantages of this alternate route. I know I'm kind of hammered on, but we're really trying to provide these complete streets. So, with the side path, you get the vehicles, pedestrians, and the bicycles covered. This connection to South Side is much closer. As kids cross there by Barnett's, they can hop on it and go east-west and go where they need to go. As part of the crosswalk master plan, we had already identified this section of Mount Olive and Harvard as a location for an active warning beacon. And the electric department's actually already purchased that equipment, so that's going to be ready for installation. So that was already in the works, and that kind of lines up with this particular route. Again, going back to the lower cost of construction, if you go this eastern half of Harvard Street, it's a lot flatter. The drainage is not as much of an issue, so it's going to be easier to construct and at a much lower cost. And then again, just going back to, we're selecting these streets that have lower traffic counts. So overall, the staff recommendation for the existing neighborhood greenway that was on the ground is to go ahead and remove the bulk of that. However, we did see some value in a couple pieces that we would recommend to keep in place. The first one would be the Carl and Harvard intersection. And this is because it will tie into the side path that's going to go into construction this year and provide that mid-block crossing across Carl Street. The second location would be on Maxwell. To leave the bulk of that in place, we think that worked out pretty well with the Memorial Park going in there. The one exception to that is that we like to get rid of the pinch point at the Main Street Bridge. I know there's some turning radius issues there if you're turning south on Maxwell, trying to cut that corner. So we would take that out, but leave the rest of the Maxwell improvements in place. And then as we move forward, we're already actually looking at a design of this side path project, so we would move ahead with construction of that as soon as possible this year. Did you have anything else to add to that? Or?
So just to kind of circle back up, Justin alluded to some of the counts that you saw earlier. It's hard to tell. Some days there were people out. I think they worked on having people there trying to really count bikes and people, which was tough. And then the two counter sometimes doesn't work. But if you recall, one of the capital items or that was in the budget was a pedestrian and bike counter to help in these areas when we want to do, counts of that magnitude and put that into the data. I think it would help tremendously, because also what's not represented in here is the amount of school kids that not only walk from Southside, but also to the middle school along that corridor. So during that time frame, there's a lot of foot traffic, and that's another reason why staff at this point in time believes that an off-street facility in a side path would be best, so remove pedestrians off the street and potentially bicyclists as well. And so again, it goes back to being a complete street. So, vehicles, pedestrians and bicyclists should be able to move through the corridor with more ease. And so again, so this piece of that we're presenting tonight that was in the 2020 budget, that will still come back to you when we need to approve the contract. And then again, the piece on the east side of 2021, we would look to budget at the next budget cycle and have that in front of you as well. So I think what we were looking at is over the next couple of weeks, should you agree with us tonight that we will start removing those features, except for the few areas where we thought we needed to keep those in place, just because, and if you go back and look, those are at crossings where people are used to now kind of crossing at the area. Both pedestrians, bicyclists, and vehicles are used to kind of slowing down at that area, so we want to leave that there, as well as over by the amphitheater where we have a lot of crossing because of the parking lot now that cities partner with the church there. So we'd like to leave that in as well. So we're available for any questions that you may have.
Mr. Mayor? Carol, if you want to go first, you can.
Go ahead.
Okay. I really like this. When the bike project came into place, I had a lot of citizens in my ward complain because a lot of this section was in my ward. But I do have a question from Elm Street on over to, what's the green end and over here? I can't really, Maxwell. So you're not planning on putting any pinch points or anything like that in those areas?
So are we talking on the west side of Mount Olive, to make sure I'm correct?
It would be the east side.
Oh, so on the east side of Mount Olive.
Well, all the way from Elm Street all the way over to Maxwell.
Oh, okay, I got you. So Justin's a lot better at drawing on this thing than I am. There you go. So up until from this section here is what you're talking about?
And all the way over.
Yeah, that wouldn't be any pinch points. That would be, again, what we're recommending doing is all off street facility. So that would be a side path completely.
Okay, and none of the, what do you call those things?
Speed humps would not be in.
Okay. I really like this. Thank you for this alternative.
So everything will be taken off Elm Street.
Yes.
Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
And Jefferson.
And Harvard. The pinch point on Harvard.
Pinch point on Harvard's coming out.
Yeah.
Again, the only pinch point that we could probably classify and say as a pinch point is that area on Maxwell by the amphitheater. That would kind of stay in place. But if, it's called a pinch point, but if you look at kind of what we did on Broadway Street, it almost acts like a bump out. So, pedestrians when they're crossing are at the forefront of a vehicle versus being street side where they couldn't be seen. So that, you could call it a pinch point, but that's why we're recommending leaving that one there. Yes.
And when you call it a side path, you're talking about just the white line and kids, the bikes can be in it? No? Explain that to me.
So side path is 10 foot wide, similar to what, we would probably say greenway trail type-ish, very wide. So it works for two-way traffic for bicyclists or pedestrians.
But it's on one side of the road. It's on the north
Correct.
side.
Correct.
Okay.
So on one side. And I think right now we're looking at putting it on the north side of the road.
Basically a
with curb.
10-foot wide sidewalk.
Yep, with curb.
Oh, it's a sidewalk.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the one that we had was it the TAP grant? That we had TAP grant monies that helped get it to Mount. Get it to Mount Olive.
Well, I was going to say very similar to what you see going on Main Street and what we're putting up near Arvest, except 2 foot wider than what's going near Arvest on Holly Street.
Carol, sorry.
This was a very controversial program when it started, and I know it started out as being funded by a nonprofit organization. My question is, when we start picking up all this, who pays for that?
It's a good question. So I think when it was presented to be installed with volunteers, and there were volunteers that helped with some of the painting. Mm-hmm. But as far as the elements on the ground, city staff help with that. So city staff will be removing them. And the reason that we recommend doing that is because we want to make sure when we remove those bolts that we plug in any holes that are there to make sure that we don't have any failures to the subgrade later on.
Do we have any cost estimate of what it's going to cost to remove all of these?
I don't.
I'm just curious.
It'll be just staff time. There won't be any out-of-pocket expense. It'll be staff time.
Okay.
To my knowledge, we'll retain ownership of the material until they ask for it back. But there won't be any, other than the cost of plugging the holes to make sure we don't get any water and freezing rain in that, which won't be that much cost, I wouldn't think. It'll just be staff time of picking up the material.
All that, whatever it is, in front of the library, turning from Mount Olive onto Jefferson to the east, goes away.
So on the east and west side of the intersections, that flex curb, absolutely.
Okay.
That's what our
So
recommendation
we
is.
won't see people running over it or.
No, and just understand that the hard surface infrastructure is what will be removed. Some of the paint will still be there. That will wear off over time. So you'll see that the delineators or the flex curve, I guess is what we really should call it, would be removed, but the painted bike section will still be there as well, because all our city streets bikes can ride on. So it'll wear off over time though.
And I like this proposal, and I am all for bike paths, bicyclists being able to move through the community in an ease and safe way. I'm also a proponent of pedestrian traffic, and I think if any of us drive by or drive down Tulsa Street when Southside's getting out, we know that there are kids walking and riding bikes. And I think that when we start doing these bike paths, that those are the people, the children that are riding their bikes. I think that's who we should be gearing to right now, especially when they're around schools. So I like this. I still would like to, and so all of this is going to be by city staff too.
Correct.
Correct. So we're not having any contractors coming in. We're not going to be spending any money other than there might be some materials, concrete, different things for the side paths that we're doing.
Approval of this will just be city staff. I don't know if we're going to build the side path with city staff or with contractors.
Do
They're
that.
saying contractors, so.
So will we get a proposal to do that?
Yes, we'll bring that contract to you once we get it out to bid. We'll bring it back to you. I think, can't remember the time frame.
I hope to have it done by school starting.
Right. So it'll be in the spring, because our goal again is to get this section done before school gets back in the following for the fall semester.
I'm glad to see this because, like I said, this has probably been one of the most controversial projects. Not that the city did it, but that came to us that we were going to see how it worked. I mean, you don't know until you try it. So we did that, and people didn't like it, so we're changing it.
Well, a lot of these recommendations that you see in front of you, the staff is saying, hey, this has been our assertion. It's because of this project. We were able to study it and look at it. And so we got some valuable information out of it. Again, I think what you can hear us say, probably ad nauseum, is complete streets is what we think we need to be pushing for where we can, where it's feasible. And this is an area where we feel like a complete street is feasible. And that means off-street improvements.
So we've learned something. That's always a good thing, that we've learned something. But I don't see that we reduced anything significantly by doing that current plan. It didn't look like it reduced traffic that much, or that we encouraged more bikes to ride down that street. So I thank the staff for taking this direction. I appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Marla.
Don, with the concern of the residents on Harvard Street, is there any way that we can leave some of that in place until the side path is done to help slow down traffic there? I know there's a lot of kids that walk on that street, and I didn't know if there's any way to leave, I don't know if it's the narrowing or anything, just for a little while longer than the rest.
That's a great question. I think I think the concern would probably be speed through that area, if anything, if anybody's concerned, because honestly, as far as a pedestrian, really still, even with the pinch point, it's only a certain area, so you're still in the street most of the time walking. I think that's something, if they're concerned with, they can contact us. We can look into the need. I think the studies we have can, the very first quarter, putting down some information we can use of kind of what the traffic's doing without the speed tables to make a decision.
Also, crossing Carl Street, several of the kids use that to get the Boys and Girls Club and then on over to the middle school. I would like us to take, from when we're driving there, our view be down at the road, but up to where we could see if there's kids coming across. I don't think that the little metal strips or whatever in the road are going to be as purposeful as maybe one of those flashing signs there, or, permanent speed hump right there, because it's used a lot. And I would like the vision of the driver to be up here instead of down here.
I was going to ask about that, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Justin, when we did the crosswalk plan, was there a plan to put a lit crosswalk at Carl and Harvard?
I don't think there was, and I think that at the time the idea was to extend the trail further south there and not actually come across.
Okay.
But I'm only 90% sure about that, but I don't believe it was in the plan.
What I was thinking, sitting here looking at this and leaving that infrastructure there at Carl and Harvard makes sense if we're going to extend that, but long term it probably makes sense that when we revise that crosswalk plan, we plug that into that matrix and see where it fits in the overall scheme, and ultimately, as Director Sappington has sort of alluded to, I think have a lit pedestrian crosswalk there, maybe a raised crosswalk, so that we still have the slowing of traffic, but have the ability to have the lights flash when people are crossing Carl Street. And I think we wanted to keep it there because we don't have that in the budget today, so we want to keep something slowing of traffic down at that intersection.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would agree with that. What I've seen people do there, because I think they're staggered, the humps are staggered, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they just go around them. That's what I've seen people
not at
do.
Not at Carl.
At
and,
Carl and
Harvard.
and Harvard, they're staggered. So I see people just go around them.
Out of the lane.
Are you serious?
Missing the flex card.
So
I mean, are you serious? People are going around.
I have seen that
Tried that
on more than
lot.
one
I've
occasion.
never.
Looks like other people may have too. So I would agree that maybe we ought to consider something a little bit different there. But go ahead if you have a
No.
Well, I want to commend the city for taking advantage of this opportunity that came to them, but also for then listening to the concerns of the citizens and making adjustments and coming up with this plan that I think really ultimately will be so much better than what was in place for the time being. And I also just want to present my understanding of the side path. You mentioned something about the sidewalk versus side path. The side path legally allows both cyclists and pedestrians, as
Correct.
opposed to the sidewalk is really just for pedestrians, right? Okay. So even though we're not calling this a sidewalk, we've talked about needing more sidewalks in town, and this is that plus, and I like that.
Correct. And so just to remind you that we were, we kind of went through some of this with you, and we said we were going to be bringing back pretty soon the updated master connectivity plan. I think what we can do at that point in time, look at the master crosswalk plan, bring that at the same time, make adjustments where we feel like it needs to be made.
And if I may, just for Chief Gilbert's knowledge, state law prohibits riding a bicycle on a sidewalk. Therefore, we're building side paths much wider than sidewalks and calling them side paths to allow bicyclists on that.
But generally, also the police officers generally do not stop those cyclists. Generally, right?
I don't think we've ever written a ticket for it. No.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would say the most controversial thing we've done is zoning for medical cannabis and dispensaries and grows in Siloam. I debate the pilot project, but I pushed the pilot project pretty hard, and I know for Siloam, it's hard for them to see the future that's happening in the area. I love connectivity. I received several phone calls of folks telling me I use that word too much. So thank you for being the first one this year for using that word. And in front of my house, I see the results of the positive of folks getting out and of all age groups using that. I love the trail. I love what we're doing. I love the direction. A couple of key things to take away with pilot projects is that we take away certain elements of that. The whole deal was not to take every element that was proposed to us, but little elements that we're talking of right now. The only thing I would caution you about is, and is a concern of mine, would be when the farmers market opens back up. In fact, Director Coleman, who's not here tonight, said at Chickadees when it was open, and unfortunately it is closed. So the days of me viewing the farmer's market on a Saturday morning, drinking a hot coffee is over. And he did a count on that. And so I thought we got rid of that misnomer of those protective lanes. There are a lot of residents in that neighborhood that use that as a connector to the farmer's market and the library. I would caution us to start taking away the green. The green is a warning for drivers that have spent, I'm going to try to be as kind as possible, their whole life in Siloam and haven't seen a bicyclist since, they quit riding bikes. It protects them. There's a city in the corridor right now that's adding extra protection because they had a fatality. So let's not lose sight and get narrow about all these little obstructions that we had. It provides safety outside of the connectivity. These are folks that are coming from residential areas to major intersections to connect to the very things that we built: Memorial Park, library, Chautauqua Amphitheater, farmers market we moved. It creates a safety buffer. That was part of the purpose of those existing there. When we get in a little friffle over little things, keep that in mind. Come spring, we're going to see them back there again. And when we take away the safety, that's what happens. But I love the Harvard. I'm pro connectivity. You know that. I just really caution you on major intersections where people are still going to be there. Keep safety in the forefront, please. Thank you.
I've still got a question on Harvard and Carl.
Yes, I have seen it.
I drive that a bunch. I have never seen it happen. That's against the law, right? You cannot avoid. You can't go out of the lane to avoid a speed
I
bump.
would
Is that
think
correct,
so, but it
Chief?
hasn't stopped people.
Is that against the law? Let's plant somebody there and just let them write tickets.
It would be classified as improper lane use, sir.
Very good. I'd like to see some
the only
tickets.
person that's seen that? Have other
I've
people
never seen it.
that?
I have.
Fair?
Yeah.
Last year, fireworks were against the law, too.
Well, I'm just saying I drive that a lot because I live just about 4 blocks from there, and that's one of my routes out, and I have never seen that happen. Maybe it's the time of day that I drive. I don't know. But I think I would like to make a recommendation since Director Coleman is down in sunny land and not here tonight, that we store all the stuff we take out in front of his house. And see how long it takes him to recognize that.
Letters to the editor.
Especially
That's
the
at your
horse
discretion,
troughs.
Don. That'd be at your
those.
discretion. I think it'd be fun.
We'll put the speed humps on his driveway.
Mr. Mayor, can I recommend the troughs are still at the city compound?
Yeah.
I see them every morning. I think that'd be a fantastic.
I think that'd be a good deal. Okay, teach him to be gone for this period of time. Yeah.
Shape of a pyramid.
All right. Okay.
So, assuming no objections, staff is going to start the process of removing all the infrastructure with the exception at the intersection of Carl and Harvard and the elements on Maxwell that we wish to retain. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I would echo Director Burns' comments a little bit in the fact that most of the those who object, for the most part, are people who just cannot handle change.
I disagree.
And they've. Well, am I not entitled to my opinion?
Me too.
Yeah, you are, and you've already stated yours. All I was just saying is I agree with Director Burns that these people that just can't accept any kind of change.
No
Let them come up here and
armadillos.
talk to us.
Right.
Get back to staff reports.
Let them come up here and talk to us and come before us and visit the board. I get back on my bully pulpit on that. They don't have guts enough to come up here and talk about it.
Fourth quarter goals.
All right. Okay.
Update to the 2019 and 2020 goals. So you have the fourth quarter update. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. You also have before you the November 2019 financials. Again, if you have any questions, contact myself or Christina in Finance Department. The formal administrator's report, we had an expenditure of $39,982 for a voice recording purchase in the police department. We had in the budget for 2020 $40,000 approved for that. And then, as I stated, tomorrow night, Wednesday, from 5 to 7 p.m. at the library, we'll have a public open house for introducing Chief Gilbert to the public. The public's invited to attend, as are you as board members and staff. And then last, I wanted to report on Lake Francis Drive, the binder course, the first binder course went down today. So we'll be finishing up that this week. We're not going to open, we plan on opening the road up to the public once the binder course is down. But before we do that, we want to get the sidewalk, the attached sidewalk poured, the concrete. We pour a binder course, and then we've got some finish work to do, and then we'll put the last layer of asphalt. But once we get the binder course down and get the sidewalk poured, we're going to go ahead and open it up to traffic. So we hope to have that done, and it's planned to be done, open up to traffic before the end of the month. So with that, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Just this past Saturday, we laid to rest the former board of director for the city of Siloam Springs, Mike Kinney. Mike served on the board for 8 years. He served as a state state representative for 8 years, and he loved Siloam Springs. Mike ran for mayor back in 2006. I guess there was maybe 2008. I can't remember exactly. Maybe 8. Yeah, maybe 8. Yeah, and it was 2008. And he was hoping so much to win so he could gavel me down when I go on one of my tirades. I've heard him say that if I'm elected, I'm going to gavel, and I was his boss at that time, kind of his boss, but anyway, he couldn't wait to gavel me down and shut me up. So I apologize for any time I get emotional. I know I have to stop, but I just it's just the way I've just been doing that for 70 years, and it's hard to stop sometimes, to take a breath and just settle down. And I respect people's opinion, but I just have my own opinion sometimes, and I just get out of hand. I apologize for that. It's nothing personal. But anyway, condolence. I know that Barb and the kids, they're going to miss their daddy. We will miss Mike a lot. Mike was a tremendous asset to this city for the years he was here, even if he did come out of Chicago area, and he was a Cubs fan, and he was quick to let you know that. But he loved his Razorbacks too. So anyway, Mike will be missed. That's for sure. That's for sure. I think that's all I've said. All I'm going to say tonight, and I'm going to pass it on. Mindy?
I echo the condolences for the Kinney family. Our prayers and thoughts are with Barb and Mallory and Megan and Sean as they go through this grieving process. I want to welcome Chief Gilbert. Happy New Year to everybody. It's hard to believe that we've been here a year, 3 of us now. I was just realizing, boy, January 2020 means we've been in this job for a year now. I know I can speak for myself by saying that I've learned a lot, but I'm still learning a lot, and I know I have a lot more to learn. While continuing to learn how city government works, I do want to continue serving the citizens here in Siloam to the best of my ability. I have really appreciated the times that citizens have taken the time to give me a call about a concern they have, or something positive, something negative, just whatever they're calling about. I appreciate they take the time to call. I appreciate the city staff for their willingness to address those concerns, if at all possible, as quickly as they can, which is usually pretty quickly. Saw a note on Facebook the other day about a pothole. And so I reached out to the person that mentioned something about the pothole, said, where is it? Told me where it was. Reached out to the administrator. Within a day, it was fixed. And so I like hearing those kinds of things. I appreciate the city staff for taking care of those things so quickly. I will continue to look for ways to help, and I continue to encourage citizens to call us board members when you do have concerns, because we do want to serve you however we can. I'm just coming back from some time abroad. I was able to spend a couple of weeks in New Zealand right before Christmas, and I was in the area called Queenstown, which is an absolutely gorgeous area of the world. And while I really appreciated the beauty there and am hoping that I can go back one day, it really kind of made me appreciate the beauty that we have available to us here. It's different in ways, but it's the same in ways. And so it made me want to come back to this area and just explore a little bit more, take advantage more of what we have in this area. And like I say, it just really made me appreciate what we have here. Different, but a lot of ways the same. So also, as a person on the city council now, I kind of look at cities differently. I looked at their trash system. They're very concerned with recycling there, and so they have 3 trash bins. Everywhere where you see a trash bin, there's 3 different ones for different recycling, and they have a lot of roundabouts in Queenstown, so that was interesting. And I won't say one thing about a roundabout one way or the other. I won't give you my opinion necessarily, but it was kind of interesting to see really what the purpose of the roundabout is, with just the way it makes the traffic flow. So that was interesting, but it is especially interesting driving on a roundabout on the wrong side of the road to us, on the wrong side of the car to us. But it was just neat to see Queenstown kind of from a different perspective now that I work for this city. Finally, I want to give kudos to the city staff who have been posting on Facebook recently with just some of the year in review post about what the different departments have done. I appreciate being able to see that, and I think it is really important to just continue to tell the story of what the city does. I think sometimes the citizens aren't really aware of all the work that goes into what happens. And sure, sometimes we make mistakes, but we learn from those mistakes, we move on, and there's just a lot of business to take care of on a daily basis. And I appreciate what you all do to take care of the daily business, all of you and all the departments in the city, and I appreciate that we're trying to communicate that to the public just to sort of get a better understanding. I know before I had any dealings with before I became a member of the city board, I didn't know all that went on with the city. So it's been interesting to see that, and I just appreciate all the work that happens. So, again, Happy New Year and best wishes for a good 2020.
Mindy, could you smell the smoke from Australia there?
I could not. I think the Australia fire started around the time we were leaving there. So, but apparently it's hit New Zealand. The smoke is in New Zealand now. No, we were spared.
Brad, you haven't decided to go down there?
Actually, one of my daughters is headed there right now on a work visa.
Director Burns?
Having said that, I'm excited about this year because connectivity and roundabouts have been stated by others and not me, and that means positive direction for Siloam.
I said I drove a roundabout.
Can't go back. It's my turn. I apologize. Welcome aboard the new leadership with the PD and the chamber, and I know you folks will do good. And I am just super excited. I kind of went back and I'm sure we've all reviewed and looked at the projects and spent some time out at City Lake and this freaky weather pattern that we've had. Watching just folks just enjoy the sites that we've been able to create with the community's vision and with their money. And so I'm just super excited about that. I'm super excited about the goal setting we have coming up. It is a good time to be in Northwest Arkansas. There is a tremendous amount of growth going on. And Siloam has a neat little niche in the city of 5. Spend some time in the corridor, talk to some folks. We've got corridor folks coming over here, seeing what we've got going on. It is just I can't remember a better time to be in the city of Siloam Springs, and 2020 is going to be awesome. I will say, working with the 3 new board members in my section, it felt like a decade last year. No, I'm just joking. That is all, Mayor. Thank you.
Marla, you got to sit right next to him.
Best decade ever, right?
Absolutely. You know, they say about neighbors and fences, it's going up. No, my first year's been wonderful, and I can reiterate what Mindy said, Director Hunt, that I have learned so much, but still, what I'm learning is making me love Siloam more. And I grew up here, and I didn't really think that would be possible. But to see the people that's moved in and become citizens of Siloam, that have taken part in our staff, in the concerned conversations that we have, I don't think they could love it any less or any more than I do, because I hear the same kind of feelings coming from them. They're eager to see the connectivity and point for the neighbor. And I am too, and I appreciate staff going through and getting the new alternative route. Looks much better to me, and I will be so glad for those armadillos to be gone at the intersection of Jefferson and Mount Olive. I have so many complaints from my agriculture friends who are driving stock trailers and dualies coming through town to get to the vet. I still feel like we're going to have protection there with the speed bump and the lights, and just our citizens are slowing down there when there's activity there. And I do want to bring some thoughts towards 412. I see a lot of people running red lights there. Scares me to death. We've got, the protective turns when we're going north and south, and it's kind of eased up some of the drivers thinking that, as soon as that's green, I can go. Well, just because it's protected doesn't mean anything on 412, because, I've seen semis and I've seen small cars go through there, and that scares me. And that's what scares me out there by the bank as well, because I know the kids walk in groups. They don't walk just one person. They may walk 6 of them straggled out, and I don't want there never to be enough time for them to get across. Because if the drivers are watching the arrows and the green lights, they're not always watching the pedestrian path. So that's a great concern of mine. I'm looking forward to Lake Francis Drive to getting open, because when my son comes from Rogers, he calls me outside of town and says, "Well, is your road fixed yet?" Because we were raised going the back direction to the house. And so really looking forward to that. And so I'm going to share that with him. And hopefully one of these days we can connect the 2 sides of the bypass, where we can safely ride our bikes or cross the bypass as part of our plan. And I just, if any of the people living in my ward need to reach out to me, please do that. I carry my phone with me all the time. So, and I love talking to people with their stories. And one other thing, Mindy was talking about learning more things about around us. Arkansas has some wonderful spots that I've never known, and they're starting to share them on Facebooks with photos of places you need to visit. And it's just really, really neat to see all the beautiful waterfalls and the paths that is just all around us. And so I just encourage you to look up some different places that you can go that are close by but are new to you. I'm done.
Lisa?
I want to welcome Chief Alan Gilbert and his family to Siloam Springs. Congratulations on the swearing in on Monday. I hope your family finds this place home to them. And I want to welcome and congratulate Arthur Holbert, as well as our new Chamber of Commerce President and CEO. Again, I wish Wayne Mays the best in his retirement. I want to remind everybody that it's amnesty time at the library from December 23rd until January 12th, so you only have a couple days left if you have some overdue books. The Siloam Springs Parks and Recs is selling tickets now for the Daddy-Daughter Dance for next month. They go fast, so if you want one, you better grab it now. And they are also having their 2020 Family Night on January 10th and 11th, and so they have a good time with that. I want to thank the city staff with this new design plan because I had a lot of citizen complaints, and the plan takes into consideration everything that my citizens had to say, and that means a lot to me to be able to go back to my citizens and say they have listened, they have heard you, and this is the plan they came up with. And I like that we're thinking about it as a side path so that we could have pedestrians and cyclists at the same time, because we don't want to take away either of them, but we want to keep our children safe and walkers safe just as well as we want to keep our cyclists safe. So I appreciate the staff time on doing that.
Reed?
My condolences to the Mike Kinney family. I appreciate the foundation that he was able to lay for us. Welcome, Mr. Holbert, and welcome, Chief. We're glad to have you all. Brad, I have another word that I'm going to use that I don't know if I've heard the word friffle before. So if we have some friffles, I hope they're steady. I'm looking forward to an awesome year in the city of Siloam Springs. Chance to be a part of what I consider the greatest community in the world. I'm glad to be part of it. Thank you.
Carol?
Okay. My thoughts and prayers do go out to Barb and her family in the passing of Mike. I want to welcome Chief Gilbert and Mr. Herbert to the chamber. Sometimes it's kind of hard to be at the end. I understand what Director Coleman says when everything else has been said. But one thing I wanted to thank Mr. Patterson for is at the last meeting we had a joint meeting or a joint workshop with the Planning Commission. And I really enjoyed that, and I hope that we can do that again. I hope everybody understands the dedication and the work that those Planning Commission members make and provide for us. I know we have quite a few new ones on now for this year, but I appreciate their effort, and I want to say thank you to them. I also enjoyed looking in, not always looking in my utility bill, but seeing the little insert of the 2019 in review. There's a lot of good things, as was said previously. But if you didn't see that in your utility bill or you haven't read it in the paper, you can also see it on the city's website. The city's website does have some very good information on what the city has accomplished, what is coming up, and things, maybe streets that are being closed. It's just, if you could just kind of get in the habit, maybe once a month or every so often, just check on the website and see what's going on, because we have a lot going on. I, too, am excited about the future for Siloam. I've always felt this is the best city in the world to live. We volunteered to move here. We weren't told to come here, so we just really like living here. And I think at this time, I move that we adjourn.
Have a motion and a second. All right, before I ask for a vote on that, his New Year's resolution is I'm not going to drink bottled water. I'm going to drink Siloam Springs water. And I challenge every board member to bring their own cup.
Challenge accepted.
And if you'd like one like this is insulated. It won't, if you put ice in it, it won't melt. I can give you one. My brother gave me some of these. So I've got blue ones and I've got red ones. And they're very nice cups. I will furnish those if you would like. But you must put Siloam Springs water in there. Okay. It's got his advertising on it, but still, he's not in the town. He's not in Siloam Springs, so it makes it's okay. Okay, I'll bring those here. And Philip and I had this discussion. He didn't know I was going to do this, but I just said, we probably should be touting our good quality water, Siloam, rather than bottled water. So anyway, that being said, we have this motion. We have this here motion to adjourn, and we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Woo pig.